One. Hello,
Good morning.
everyone. Welcome to the Woman's Cave. It's so nice to be here.
I know today is so great. Like we've been having such great guests lately, and I'm so excited to have our guest today. I just feel like I'm going to learn a lot from him. But before we start that, you guys, we have to plug. And I'm hoping that Winona first and foremost will
Oh
learn
no,
a
I'm
lot.
already stopping you. Because I want to plug myself first.
Wow. And you see how that just happens? That just happens to me. She doesn't like to make money, you guys. It's just something she doesn't like to do.
Well, hey, I'm here for you guys, not the money. I'm so
That's
Anyway, my name is Winona. And you are?
I'm Jade.
Oh, okay. I just checking. Did we do that before?
I mean, no, but I was getting to it. It was
Okay.
all in my
Plug on. I apologize.
You just always been messing up my life. Like you just be like, no, let me tell you what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna mess up your whole plug.
I'm sorry. Plug
Whatever.
away. Plug away.
Whatever. Anyway, since we already introduced ourselves before time,
that's not my fault.
Winona never stays to the
Not
script.
my fault.
Well, it's not really a script, but we have an outline, and she never stays to it. Anyway,
all right, go.
We are the founders and authors, along with a whole bunch of co-authors, of 3 books right now. And I Thought Divorce Was Bad with Other Life Lessons. And I Thought Being Grown Up Was Easy. And I Thought I Could Juggle It All, which is kind of funny because that's what our guest is going to talk about today. And I'm very excited to hear him talk about multitasking and how we can all do it.
Smart segue. Wow.
Yeah, I did a smart segue. Oh, by the way, they're available on Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com. Now we can talk about our guests.
So the designated smart person in the room, would you like to introduce yourself?
My name is James Miller. I'm a licensed psychotherapist and a composer. In fact, I had the pleasure of introducing or actually interviewing one of your colleagues. And so she's going to be on my podcast in the next couple of weeks. So you listeners definitely tune into my podcast as well to hear one of their colleagues' amazing stories.
Yeah, he interviewed Alexis. I think we talked about this with Marvici and how much she doesn't like to show up for camera and things. Yeah, but if you want to reference why she doesn't ever show up on camera or at speaking events that we go to, then go back to Marvici. But anyway.
But not even that, just go back to And I Thought Divorce Was Bad and read the first poem of Shiner. And you'll totally
completely understand.
You'll get it.
We're not here to talk about us.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
We are here to
my hair got stuck on my lip. Okay, Dr. Miller, can you please tell us what you do and why you got started doing this in the first place? Because I know you were in DC before, and now he's in wonderful Palm Beach. You just explain all 3 of those things.
So real quickly, I'm a licensed psychotherapist, and so for me, I'm like 3 classes short of my doctorate. I'm like, one of those dropouts. I'm like, I'll eventually get to it. So I've done so much in the field. I've been in the mental health field for about 20 years. I used to teach at university. Actually, my first job postgraduate work is I worked in a prison. So I'm like 24 years old. What in the world do I know about life? But that quickly grew me up. So like you said, I was in the DC area. I had a really successful practice up there for the past 10 years. And, for me on a personal note, I just wasn't really being fulfilled in my personal life. So I went ahead and created a whole new plan, which is James Miller Lifeology. So Lifeology is essentially the study of life. You have a story, I have a story. We all have something that we can teach each other. It could be from, I want to be like that person, or I don't want to repeat the same mistakes as that person made. So we all have something that's congruent, or that's very similar, and that's what really links us together. So the Lifeology thing that I created was, so like I said, I have a podcast, it's actually becoming pretty well known, which I'm really excited about, very humbled by it. I created an academy, which so people just like yourself, just like me, can take self-directed courses just to help them kind of revamp their life and live a life in a very simple and very transitional way, and transformative way, rather. And I actually write for a magazine down here, which has been very nice. So I think I'm on my 25th article with them. So in fact, I turned in an article today, and that article is about faith versus fear. They ask us to do the same thing, but we choose to listen to one or the other. So a lot of the different things I do down here has just been very restorative to me, very relaxing to me. So in the West Palm Beach area, I mean, I'm like 3 blocks from the ocean. I know that's it's kind of hard for some people to think that is kind of my life right now. And so it's to go from the DC area, which is very a different lifestyle, to come down here has just been very, very nice. Although I do go back up to DC once a month to see patients up there. So I see about Monday and Tuesday, I see about 15 patients, and then I fly back down for the month. So it's kind of nice to be able to have that flexibility as well.
You call it flexibility. We call it sadness. If I had to leave Florida and come up here to DC, I'd be sad.
I know, right? But it's kind of weird because I actually grew up in Canada. So for me to not have the seasons, it's just very odd. And so I'm thinking, well, why did I come down here? So for me, just even fly up to DC just to have a little bit of the season change, I actually find it very enjoyable. And I kind of miss that the humdrum of just how the fast pace it is. Because I think when I moved down here, I kind of came across as a jerk because I'm like, I want this, I want that, let's move. And everyone's like, calm down, James. And so I was like, oh, well, I guess it's a different lifestyle. So it has been a little interesting twist for me as I've kind of acclimated to the area.
Well, I know technically DC is in the South, but I don't think the DC area actually works like it's in the South. I think when you get to like Richmond, you start to be like, oh, slow everything down.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, well, like Northern Virginia, all that, it's kind of like a completely different world than the rest of Virginia. It's just totally different.
Right.
It was so funny because you can tell when you leave because we went from our house down to Williamsburg, actually. So when we went down there, I was like, wow, it's literally an hour away, but it's like a whole nother lifestyle.
Not an hour away.
Is it not? I don't drive that often, so I really don't know. I just ride in the car.
Idea. She just gets in the car. She's like, take me to Williamsburg. Hello.
I'm so sorry. So we are actually supposed to talk about multitasking today. I just had one more question before we actually got to the topic of multitasking. Are you familiar with there's a Brian London Reel thing? He does the same kind of thing in London, but I wanted to ask you why you feel that it was important for Lifeology to be a part of your life and other people's lives. Mm-hmm. Oh, one more question, sorry, before I let you go on this one. And I heard about syndication. Alexa was saying, you were saying something about possible syndication. So that's question one, why is it important to be in life and Lifeology in your life and others? And then question two, national syndication.
Perfect. First one, Lifeology itself. So in psychotherapy, and I'm in session, I'm hearing all these things about people. I'm hearing their lives. I'm hearing all the struggles they're going with. And in my mind, I'm thinking, well, I have another client who went through this, or I have a friend who went through this, or I know this, I've heard this, or maybe I'm even going through something very similar. And it really helped me recognize just in that essence that we all have something to teach. We all have something that we're going through that's very similar. So what I wanted to do, and this is why I'm, I guess, down in Florida, the way I recreated this whole plan was I wanted to be location independent. I didn't want to be linked to my office all the time. I didn't want to be linked to wherever. So I formulated the plan. I'm like, well, what can I do that really allows me to be location independent? I can fly to London right now and be there and do my job. In fact, I did that last year. I was there for a month and I went ahead and I did that. I worked from there and it was amazing. So my point is I really formulated this plan around that. And so Lifeology itself is just the sharing of stories, the advice, the adversity we've all overcome, because there's nothing new under the sun. We've all experienced something very similar. So I wanted to take it from the individual and couple psychotherapy that I did and move it to something that is much more positive driven, much more actionable, much more exciting, much more learning based, as opposed to the in-depth psychotherapy that I would do with my patients. So that was a natural transition for me. And ultimately, I am kind of going to the national syndication component of it. That is something I'm still working on. In fact, I just did an iHeartRadio episode, and so I'm getting a lot more for the Lifeology itself. It's getting a lot more press. And so I'm potentially talking with some people about doing some things up in New York. My long-term goal is actually have my own talk show. And so there's a lot of producers I've been talking to down here in Miami and up in New York about potentially doing that. So the national syndication is still in the works right now, but I'm getting much, much closer. And the thing is, I'm sure you guys have realized too, there's so much technical aspects for the syndication as far as the time constraints of the show, the different segments you have, the different formats. So kind of reformatting Lifeology in my own podcast to really be able to navigate that and make sure that I get that. So if you may see at different times, if you listen to my podcast, they're slightly longer, slightly shorter, different segments, just trying new things. But the syndication is actually pretty close. So that is a very exciting thing. And my YouTube channel as well. I think I have 145 episodes of little concierge type of therapy, little snippets, little life lessons that people can kind of take away from. I think I actually did one on faith versus fear as well, like that column that I just wrote. And so there's a lot of things that people can do with Lifeology, a lot of takeaways, a lot of just really nuggets that people can just use in their everyday life, because that's what helps them just be successful. I think one of the biggest things that people struggle with is we just go and go and go. And I can segue right into the multitasking, but there's so many things that people do that in their life that they just do it because they just do it. They don't realize I can do it slightly different. I can do something in a different format and I can actually grow. But if we just do it on autopilot, we're not going to grow and develop as a person. And we can kind of reflect on that year and be like, oh, I didn't really do anything this year. This year was the same as 2 years ago. And that's one of the really things that I really kind of help people recognize is slow everything down. When you slow everything down and you're mindful about it in the moment, that's what helps you then say, you know what, I don't like what I've been doing. I'm going to slightly do something different. You know, it's interesting. One of the statistics state that less than 2% of people can actually multitask. Now, when I read that, I was like, wait a minute, I'm really good at multitasking. I'm excellent in this. But what I meant by that is the efficacy component. How efficient are you? So let's say well, for example, I'm driving a car and I'm texting. Well, clearly that's illegal. But one of the reasons why is you can't do either one of those well. And so that the efficacy aspect of it is how efficient am I? If I were to do this one task by myself without having any distractions, how quickly could I do it? How well would I do it? How much energy would I put in? How much mind and how much thought would I put into that? So that's kind of how they measured it. So yeah, there are many things we do where we can say, oh, you know, I'm a mother and I'm also getting ready for work, so I'm taking care of my kids. So all those types of things are natural, but the point is to be really, really efficient with it, you can't multitask. And so when I was thinking more about that, I thought, you know, so if I can't multitask maybe a behavior, why is it that people multitask the different roles they play? For example, you two ladies are friends, but you're also co-hosts. And so there's a part where you have to think about, what am I doing right this second? What is my primary role? And so what I really like for people to do is kind of come up with a job description of what is a co-host, what is a friend, what is a business person. So when you can really come up with those job descriptions, you can ask yourself, well, am I doing that job description right now, or am I using two roles? Like for me, I'm a guest on a show, but I'm a podcaster, I'm a composer, I'm a writer. All those things are things that I naturally do and kind of just navigate through that in my day. But if I'm not mindful in this moment to say, all right, I am a guest on a show. So what does that mean? So I'm engaging, I'm talkative, I'm the expert of the show. And so those types of things, you really have to be aware of that. Anything that's outside of that, I can't bring into the show because I'm not going to be as efficient. I'm not going to be as well spoken. I'm not going to be as informed as I would be should my mind be thinking about other things. And so I really like for people to slow everything down and say, in that moment, what role are you? And if you're struggling with trying to figure that out, it just is simply, well, what are my expectations right now? What am I supposed to do right now just to make it so that I can be successful in this moment?
Wow. We have so much to talk about. I had like 17 questions in there. And then I was like, no. I just want to listen.
I didn't want to multitask. I didn't. I was like, no, wait. I need to end it right now. Right now, I need to live in this moment.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I do have to apologize. I just realized I've had 2 cups of coffee and I am flying with all this information. So just to let you know, I have a lot of energy at this moment.
Well, that is absolutely fine. It's just, it was so great because, as I always say, and our tagline is, wisdom is all around us if we are open to accepting it and finding it.
Now people are going to think we're ending the show, but
we're not ending the show. I'm going to do a smart tiger. I'm going to try to do like he did. But when I was thinking about that, you said something about multitasking, being co-hosts and being writers and all this. Like we all, well, Nona and I, we wear all the hats. In fact, we're the founders of the speaking group, the And I Thought Ladies. So we wear all these hats, and it's very nice to hear someone say it's okay to like slow down and take it easy for a little bit.
Exactly. And even if it's just in that moment, even if it's like a 3-second, all right, what am I doing? What's the primary role? Let me just kind of wear that hat, if you will. For example, since you're the speakers, all right, so you have a speaking engagement or you're about to speak. All right, I'm a speaker. What is it specifically about that? Moving those other components of the creator of the show, of the writer of the show. You're still that, but that's not in the forefront of your mind. Because if the other things are there, well, you're not going to be as well spoken. You're not going to be as gregarious or charismatic as you typically are. So that's all I'm really saying is when you slow everything down and say, what is my primary role right this second? Let me make sure I create, let me make sure that I actually am able to perform those job descriptions. That's what's going to help you be much more successful and help you do something in a different way. You know, one of the things I typically do if I talk to a patient one day, because I do see some patients down here, same ways, you know, via the digital world. Sometimes what I'll do is when I see a patient, I sit in one spot in my studio, and then when it comes to me actually performing or writing or doing something else, I will sit in a different spot, because just even that simple movement of what you see, what you literally see, and even the space that you create, all of a sudden help put you back in the mindset of a different role you played. So for me to kind of move around in my studio allows me to then be more creative, to wear that creative hat and say, all right, I'm composing here, or I'm writing here, or I'm talking to a client right now. But that actually gives you the ability to not multitask as much, because you really assign certain spots in your life to do a certain role, and that's what helps you be more efficient.
That is, wow. Wow.
I like the fact that even though we are doing something for our main primary role, we always have access to anything and everything and the knowledge that we had beforehand, or the knowledge that we gather along the way. And so even when we're not multitasking, we're using those things to perform that role better. And I love how you said that. We kind of like streamline it into that role and make it specific. It has been an absolute pleasure.
It has been an honor.
I mean, is there anything else, any other wisdom you would like to bestow before we start wrapping up? Because I have thoroughly enjoyed it and want to have you back.
So real quick,
want to have you back.
I'm going to say this though. The difference is, so there's nothing worse than, maybe you're talking to Jade and you're trying to tell her all these things that you're struggling with, and then Jade's on the phone and she's texting someone. So that right there is very difficult. One thing I always tell people to say is you direct the person. If I'm struggling with something, or if I have multi-roles with a friend, so let's say I'm their boss or I'm their colleague, I'm their friend, and I'm struggling with something, it's important to direct the person to what you need. If I hear someone and I'm just telling them I want just a shoulder to cry on, and they're trying to give me advice, I'm not going to hear it. So I always tell the people to direct the person to say, I just need you to listen to me right now. I don't need advice, because you set the precedent, or you set the role for the other person, so your needs will be met. Same type of thing, if you're talking to her as a friend and she's talking to you as a co-host, well, there's going to be a disconnect there as well. So you always want to set the precedent when you're talking to someone else, if you have multiple roles with them, because that's what's going to help you be more efficient and get your needs met and stop so many more struggles or arguments or just feelings being hurt. So that's really
important now. Because those two merging things, a friend and co-host, I thoroughly enjoy doing both. Although she thinks it's unprofessional, I thoroughly enjoy doing both.
The difference is you set that precedent, say that I'm going to have both roles. So that's the difference. So that you are able to set that, and so she's aware of what's going to happen. And so it's, once again, it's just being more mindful. It's just telling the other person what you need, and in setting the expectations so people understand exactly what's going on.
You have been amazing.
I told you. I watch his YouTube channel. I told you he was going to be amazing.
I mean, I did, because I'm always concerned about who Alexis actually wants to chat with. So I'm always like research. But oh wow, it's been a pleasure to meet you. It really has been. And if we were going to do this another 3 more weeks, I'll definitely I'll have you right back. But we're going to actually do a primary rule of vacation.
Oh, perfect.
We're going to take a hiatus.
Wonderful. I hope you guys really enjoy it. Remember, actually be on the vacation and don't work.
Oh, that's just a lie. No.
Well, Nona doesn't believe in that. She doesn't believe in that. But I think we're actually going to have to take an actual vacation, which makes me excited, like a real one where you don't work at all. But where can people find you? Twitter, email, whatever.
Sure. So if you just type in James Miller Lifeology, you will find all of my social media. It's all under that name. My actual website, jamesmillerlifeology.com, that has all of the everything that I've created, everything I've done, including my latest album, which is on iTunes as well. All of that is what someone can find, where all this information. They can even take some of the self-directed courses in my academy, read my articles, watch my YouTube channels, etc. So thank you so much for letting me be a guest on your show today. I've really, really appreciated it.
Oh, no! Someone who's like a Rhodes Scholar and like lifeology and balance. Come now, we have to have you.
We have to. I mean, we're the ones sitting over here, and we'll write about life all the time. So we have to have the Rhodes Scholar on.
Okay, so since you guys came up, we're gonna do our wrap up, and I can't wait to chat to you afterwards. Yes, that's right, viewers. We have a lovely chat afterwards, and you don't get it. I'm sorry.
But okay, here we go. We are the co-founders, but we're the founders of the And I Thought Ladies, and we wrote several books. And here's one: And I Thought Divorce Was Bad with Other Life Lessons. And I Thought Being Grown Up Was Easy. And I Thought I Could Juggle It All. Well, now you guys probably aren't going to read that book, because we had Dr. Miller on, which is, whatever.
Hey,
but anyway,
did say that we get to wear different hats. Like, we get to do different things. It's just we have to streamline it to be primary for that moment. Yes. Right?
Exactly. Yes.
So you still need to juggle.
So I thought I could juggle it all. And you can find those on Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com.
As you always know, that you can find your ladies and email your ladies at ladies@andwethought.com. Keep them coming. We thoroughly enjoy what you guys have to say. You can always find everything that we're up to and we'll be doing in the future at www.andwethought.com. Mentioning that we will be co-hosting, we got bumped up from just guest speakers to co-hosting the Virtual Woman Success Summit this weekend. All weekend long, you can find your ladies on that. That's where we'll be. Literally all weekend long. We had to cancel every plan. We had to do that. Anyway,
but still, co-hosting is co-hosting.
Co-hosting is co-hosting. Sacrifices are made. And you can also find the fact that we have book number 4 coming out in October, and I Thought He Was the One. Remember, you guys, this is my favorite book. It's the life stories of women who went through heartbreak, marriage, relationships. I mean, we had that woman who got stood up at the altar and still made it through. Emotional abuse, everything and anything you want to know about life and marriage and relationships, that's in that book. And I think, September the 12th, we possibly will be taking a break because, as we said with Mr. Miller, we will be doing a small vacation of our own.
Vacation!
Yay! And then we will be back. But in the meantime, you can still find us, and we'll still be putting things up on Blog Talk Radio. You can find this episode, because I saw how many viewers came in for this episode. Awesome. You can find this episode on Roku TV. Just look at our website, and it'll give you the directions. Also, you have the podcast. He'll be on our podcast as well. And thank you so much, Dr. Miller, for stopping by. And we would like to finish our tagline. I guess since you've already said it once, let's go for it again. Jade, start it up.
Wisdom is all around you if
you're open to finding it and accepting it. I did not mess that up again.
Yes, woo! High five.
Goodbye, you guys.
Have a good week.